Alice Hoagland. It's an honor and a privilege to share my grief with the good people of New York City. On September 11th, 2001, my son Mark Bingham was scheduled to fly from Newark, New Jersey, back home to San Francisco, California. He made it as far as Shanksville, Pennsylvania. On that morning, with a terrorist at the controls, himself terrorized by the sound of pounding feet and shouting from a determined knot of passengers, determined to get into the cockpit, the terrorist turned that big Boeing 757 belly up and plowed it into the ground, the soft, loamy soil of southwest Pennsylvania, going 580 miles per hour. Mark was proud to stand with a group of stand-up guys, themselves toughened by their sports acumen. There were 2 rugby players on board. Mark was one of them. There was a basketball player, Todd Beamer, and there was a football quarterback in college by the name of Tom Burnett who helped lead the charge. And those guys made a difference. It was because of them that the United States Capitol building did not perish in flames that day. Thank you. They saved countless lives on the ground and became symbols of why goodness, unity, and togetherness win out over fear, terrorism, and tyranny. Mark was a great kid who lived a very complex life. He was a frat brother and a crazy goof-off at the University of California, Berkeley, once arrested for plowing headlong into the Stanford tree during the big game of 1992. He was a rugby player, 6'4", a fierce competitor, and a gay man who had not come out completely. So I hope to this day that he won't mind when I tell people proudly that my son was a gay man. He taught me. Thank you. Thank you. He taught me how important it is to be able to stand on your feet and fight when you need to. He himself rued the fact that there were not enough gay heroes to look up to. I doubt that he realized how he would die, and in what a glorious way and in what glorious company on that morning, September 11th. When that horrifying moment came and action was required, Mark and his pickup team of friends, formed from the coach of a 757, he died with his friends. They all stepped up to serve, and in the process saved many lives. As those guys were charging down that long aisle toward the cockpit, yelling, in the cockpit, if we don't do it, we'll die. As they were yelling that, they were scaring the guys who had control of the plane, and nobody was asking who was straight and who was gay. That's what 9/11 taught us all, that we really are one in spirit, in spite of the color of our skin, our race, our age, our beliefs, our gender, our sexual orientation, or how we decide to live our own lives, or how else we might be different. What matters most is that we are all people bound together by our common humanity, and it's something we forget all too often. That's why I was inspired when David Payne and Jay Winnock first contacted me more than 7 years ago. They had this simple idea that we ought to remember the victims of 9/11 by rekindling the spirit of unity and service that brought our nation together in the aftermath of the attacks. They had read about what Mark did on Flight 93 and wanted to know if I would help them get the idea started, and I said, of course, it's what Mark would have wanted me to do. It hasn't been easy for David and Jay. I know that firsthand. They worked very hard, but they never gave up. And the results are here for all of us to see and celebrate. Thanks in large part to their tireless efforts, we have a real way to celebrate and honor those who died on September 11th now. Even though this day will always be difficult for us, I'm comforted in knowing that something good has finally come from the events of that terrible day, and I'm truly inspired by the realization that millions of people are already taking time out of their busy lives in remembrance of the folks who died and served and perished on all the flights and on the ground in Washington and in New York and in Pennsylvania on that day. We are very grateful for those who came to their aid. Who knows where all this will lead, but already it has given joy to me and to so many other families of 9/11 heroes and victims. Right after 9/11, I doubted that that could have been possible, but thanks to the faith and resilience of so many people, including these two guys, David and Jay, I've discovered that it's not impossible at all. I'm very pleased to welcome the two individuals who helped start this movement nearly 8 years ago, my good friends David Payne and Jay Winnock.